Chad Kramer. I'm the bison herd manager here at Custer State Park. I've been here a little over 16 years, and my primary duty is the care of the bison herd here in the park.
My name is Dave Riles. We've been ranching here in the Black Hills for approximately 20 years. We've had this ranch. We've had cattle and buffalo for at least the last 10 years.
I'm Randy Schroth, and me and three of my sons ranch here in Buffalo Gap, and we run a cow-calf operation.
We had a wildland fire begin in the park, and pretty quick, it was a windy day, pretty quick it got into some pretty rough terrain. And for the size that it went to, the team for that first day or two backed up, came up with a plan to establish lines, and basically what ended up happening was another weather front came through before they had things prepared, and with that happening, the wind and terrain, it just basically blew up.
I still remember the phone call from Brian, our hired man that lives here on site, and he said that it jumped out of the park and onto private land. And my first thought was, you know, what can we do? I live in Rapid City, so I jumped in the pickup, and a number of people that we'd contacted came out. There was about 10 of us. We'd moved equipment into a safer area up at the neighbors. You know, we had our fire sprayer ready, we had another sprayer ready. We started going back and forth on a couple different locations of where the fire was going to get closest to us. And about 1 o'clock at night, it finally came upon our land. You know, we put out as much fire as we possibly could. It still burned approximately 700 acres of rented and deeded land. You know, it was a scary and kind of a nightmare, I guess you could call it.
We were on the fire for 2 days straight without leaving. As soon as it got over up by Dry Creek, me and the boys and a bunch of neighbors. So we stayed there for that night and then part of the next day, and we got it pinched off into the timber and saved quite a bit of ground. Took out a lot of our winter grass and kind of left us a little bit hanging. Hay's a little hard to come by in this country this year. It was kind of a drouthy year last year.
The fire blew up around 5:30, 6 o'clock sometime that evening. It hit the corral here. I was here about 10:30 that evening. Was headed down this way to open some interior gates if needed and that on the fence, but without knowing where the herd was at. And the way it was moving, there really wasn't much you could do. I've seen grass fires and prescribed burns that we've done, but I've never seen a grass fire like that with that kind of wind. We had 20 to 30 mile an hour winds with gusts 50 to 60, they were saying. There was one point where I saw it come over a ridge, and it went 200 to 300 yards in less than 10 seconds.
It burned 30,000 acres in one night, and in probably about 10 hours. All you could do is just kind of stay out of the way, and hopefully you could direct it so it didn't get closer to livestock or hay or buildings, and that's really all the firemen could really do. And this particular fire was the third largest in the Black Hills history.
Probably the biggest fire we'd ever been on. Good crew, yeah, good neighbors. It goes a long ways in this country. Just a bad time of the year to go into winter with no grass. I'm pretty fortunate. We stopped it on a place we've got leased up there. Real fortunate it didn't go all the way through us. Some of my neighbors lost everything, so that was really tough on them.
Out of almost 850 animals, we've had about between 10 and 20 that have been affected that I've been able to notice. You know, ones that have been, the hair singed on them enough that you can tell that they were in contact with the fire. Within a day or two, we had most of them corralled. We do have them now contained in about a quarter section where we're feeding and such. So while we're working on perimeter, our boundary fence, we ended up with about 4.5 to 5 miles of the boundary fence that was affected. My family and I have a herd of our own on some leased property that's just outside of the park. The fire did completely burn just about all of our grass except for the prairie dog town that's on the property. Our herd did sustain quite a bit of injury to it. Burns, we took 4 or 5 days to catch them all and get them transported to a neighboring buffalo ranch. And then we did have some initially we had to euthanize, and then we gave them about a month and ran them through again and reassessed them. Had another few that we did have to euthanize because their injuries had gotten worse, and primarily it was injuries to the eyes, and then also it affected and burnt the teats and the udders on the cows and that.
But I still feel very blessed though that we didn't lose far more than we could have. For the amount of acres that burned in one night and as fast as it went, I think that we had a minimal amount of loss per livestock in any dwellings or buildings. But the amount of people that came together, the neighbors, the firemen, the hours that a lot of these people put in, it was just unbelievable, the time and what they did to help one another.
My wife's got cancer right now, so we've been going through that too, and back and forth to Mayo. So it's been a hectic fall. Got a call from Farm Rescue. I'd kind of heard of it, but never been any involvement with it. Kind of a neat deal when you get kind of learning more about it.
We've seen a huge outpouring of support. Immediately following, within the 3-4 days, there was a lot with the social media anymore. There was a lot of offers for assistance that way. And then it came down through the staff that we were working with the Farm Rescue organization, the park, and then also all the neighbors and such that were affected. So that's where we started directing people to. I do remember reading some media articles over the years where Farm Rescue has helped out with, agricultural folks, just kind of planning with them here at the park. It's helped alleviate the burdens, both for the park herd and then for us personally. We've received a load, and now we're at a point where I think we're fairly certain what we're going to end up with in our herd.
A neighbor of ours sent me a link to Farm Rescue that they could possibly provide, whether it be hay or maybe someone that could fix fence or a number of different things. Went on Farm Rescue's website, sent an email, made a phone call, and Levi got back in touch with me, and we visited about the fire and some of the loss that we had, and thankfully he had a very open heart, willing to bring out a couple loads of hay, and brings tears to your eyes what they do, and the amount of people that they can help or they have helped, and something you never forget.
All I did was answer the phone, so it don't get much easier than that. They delivered one load, and then we did find a neighbor that we bought another load from. So we've been kind of mixing and matching that a little bit, and still looking around for a few more loads, I guess, kind of see how all that comes together. It just gets you that much closer to spring, I guess, and every day counts in this business. Very much appreciated. Again, like I say, it kind of saved us.
Initially just going through it personally myself, and then dealing with my job here at the park as herd manager on it, there's times it's really overwhelming. What do I do if I'm going to remain here on the lease? What do I do till June, really, when green up happens? So just trying to figure out a plan, what's the best plan for me personally, and then what we're doing here at the park too. It helps take some of the stress and some of that just overwhelming feeling off, because there's people contacting you, reaching out to you and providing services. The hay and the other offers in visiting with the Farm Rescue folks. For a lot of people it ends up being a financial hardship, sometimes to the point where it can almost put a person out of business, and it's going to be probably minimum of a 5-year project where I can see on getting back to where we were.
At the time when Levi came out with the hay, we were down to about 2 weeks worth of hay left, and whether it's one bale or 10 semi-loads, we're extremely grateful for each and every one. I think it's extremely important what Farm Rescue does. There are some instances where the people wouldn't be able to continue their livelihood, their farming, ranching, or whatever they're doing because of the loss that they've had or the setback, or whether it could be health or drought, fire. It's truly amazing what they have to offer and what they do.
They're great people, really great people. Thank the Lord we got people like them around, and thank all the sponsors that kind of donated to this, I guess.
It's been great to work with everybody that I've spoke with. It's a great organization. It takes people like that to step up when you have a disaster like this and help out. It takes many hands to make the work light. So for everybody that stepped up and donated, whether it's with their hands, volunteering, or financially, I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart.
Pay it forward, I guess. That's all the guy can do.
The easy part is to receive. The biggest part is to give. Whether they provide hay or provide the truck or are a sponsor for Farm Rescue, the organization would never be where it's at if it wasn't for people like you, for all you've done and all you've given, small or large. And then there's so many people that they've helped in the years that you don't ever forget those things. And there will be someone else in line one day that will need. And I hope and pray that we can be there for them.